So I just want to summarize this for a bit. Okay. So things like, when it comes to these labels, seeing them as false, very powerful. They are false. See them as such. See that all sentient beings, we have things in common. His Holiness often starts off teachings this way. He says, really, what's the difference? All sentient beings, and he's not just talking human beings here, sentient beings. All sentient beings want happiness and they don't want to suffer, without exception. Now, what brings them happiness and suffering is often different, but really that's the basis. When you think what the real difference is really very little, really very little. So seeing that will be very helpful. Not to cling to categories like friend, enemy, stranger. Don't cling to them. Now, it's normal to label, of course, because there's some people you just want to avoid, and there's some people you'd rather spend time with. This is normal. But don't label in such a way. Try to reduce that, because it's just not true. Try to deconstruct what's going on. See it for what it is. Very helpful. Use impermanence. There is no better friend to you, in my opinion, on the road, on your spiritual journey, than impermanence. No better friend. None. Seeing the impermanent nature of things really loosens so much. It loosens attachment, it loosens aversion. It's almost like trying to pin, covering something in oil and then trying to pin a label on it. It doesn't stick. You see its impermanent nature. Sometimes when we're talking about strangers, the countless other sentient beings, it can seem too big. It can seem too big to tackle. Friends and enemies I can deal with, but 7 billion other people, human beings, let alone the other realms of existence, too big for many people. And so what you really need to do here is, with some wisdom, start to reduce attachment, not love, not compassion, attachment to certain people, to certain groups of people, if you can. Start to reduce your hatred, your aversion to certain groups of people, to certain individuals. That's the way forward. That's the way. Don't spread your attachment. That's the way forward. Now, it takes skill to reduce attachment and not reduce the love and the compassion, but it can be done. You see it all the time. By reducing your attachment, really, you open the space to be able to love more. And we were talking about this in the break. Love and compassion are the two things that the more you give, the more you get. You cannot empty your mind of compassion. It's not possible. And it's one of the few things of love and compassion that the more you give, the more you generate. So instead of that love and compassion to a small group, you spread it to larger groups. But it can be tough to start with, so reducing your aversion to certain people, certain groups, reducing your attachment to certain people, certain groups, that can be useful, very useful. Any questions about that?
Well, it's not a question, but when we had the discussion, I was thinking that I'm more busy to put labels on myself for a while.
Sure.
And but it fits very well for what you're saying with compassion. Don't get too much attached to this labels, whatever it is. Not good enough, not this enough, all this.
Now, this is where being gentle with yourself, what
Yes,
we were doing
exactly.
this morning, is so important. So important.
But this came in the discussion.
Sure,
not
sure.
in the meditation.
Yeah.
So it's,
But it is, when we first start working with it, sometimes there is this problem. You think, well, if I reduce my love to my family, can I do that? But nobody's asking you to do that. No, it's attachment. See the difference. See the difference. How do you reduce attachment right at the very beginning of the day? Do you remember? Bodhicitta is born from great compassion. Great compassion born from renunciation. Renunciation born from reducing and getting rid of attachment. How do you do that? Practicing the Dharma. Topics such as precious human rebirth, karma, impermanence, death. Do you see where it all comes back? So you're not saying don't love your parents too much. You know, don't become cold towards your best friend. You know, things like, no, keep your love, keep your compassion, but see the difference. See the difference. And if you do that, you come out of that cage I was telling you about in the desert. You come out. And you'll never want to go back in. Because what you'll see is the more love and compassion you give, the more you have. It never goes empty, ever. And if you have, we were saying, if you have a really strong attachment, because when you were talking, I was thinking of my parents. I mean, I didn't even like people to look cross-eyed at my parents, let alone anything else. But if you do have people that you have a strong attachment to, then turn it, use it, use that. It's only energy. In and of itself, it's not evil. Use the energy. How do you use it? By having these people in front of you and allowing that love and compassion to grow until it's almost bursting out of your body. Yes? Allow it. Don't say, well, I have to cut. No, the opposite. Allow it to grow. Get it big, get it effervescent until it's almost seeping from every pore in your body. Yes? Then start spreading it. Start feeding it to other family members. Start and notice that you're feeding it to other family members, but you've not lost anything here. You've still got enough. So you spread it to acquaintances and check up. You still have enough. In fact, there seems to be more. Then spread it towards strangers, perhaps. Just see it spiraling outwards. And then include the people that you dislike. Let it spiral out to them. And you check up and you think, oh my goodness, not only do I have enough, I'm getting more and more. This is, and you almost have to do it now. And then you start all realms of existence. If you understand about the realms of existence and understand how they suffer, then you can start spreading it out like that. And you never deplete it, ever. Doesn't happen. And when you come out of a meditation like that, you're not the same, you know. Okay, you might revert back, but for that time, you're not the same. You see, instead of seeing it as an obstacle, you've got a lot of attachment to someone, a lot of love and compassion. Forget the attachment, love and compassion. Instead of seeing it as a problem, see it as a solution. See it as a solution. Use it. It's another way of using, another way of doing meditation. So, if this is true, and we have teachers in this world, Lama Zopa, His Holiness, many of the people that I know of that are teaching, you know, the Lamas that are teaching the FPMT, you can see it. So, how do you recognize in others, forget about ourselves, how does it look like someone that is equitable? How does it manifest? Just think for a minute. Imagine someone walks into the room now, maybe a Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. How does this manifest? How do you recognize it in people that they have this equanimity? How would you recognize it?
I think sometimes it's difficult to recognize it directly from your own experience, but you can observe others around them.
This is why we're using it. Yeah, okay, I see others around them.
Yeah, you can see that people feel very comfortable.
Okay, so there you go. That's one thing, isn't it? Other people seem to be calm around them. I've seen lamas, I was saying today, I've seen lamas who they've had people brought to them that are, you know, really disturbed, I mean, really disturbed. And within minutes, just calming down. And this lama's not doing mantra or magic. He's just being there. Being loving and compassionate. But you couldn't measure it. It just is. Being equitable. And this person comes down. The difference between a crying baby being picked up by someone who's agitated and a crying baby picked up by someone who's not agitated is very balanced. You think that child doesn't know? Of course. So you watch how people around them seem calm. So that's a good point. How else would you recognize it?
In a way that they move between people, it's quite fluid.
Yes.
You know, they're not stopping to gain admiration
No.
at any point. They're not stopping to give any one person. Yes, they give people teachings, but they're always referring to the larger context.
It's true. It's true. Sometimes they take people aside to do stuff. That's nothing. You know, that's okay. But certainly you can see it. They're not. You don't see a preference. I mean, you know, people that have got preferences and, you know, cliques and things like that. You don't see that with the lamas. You see people trying to build that up with the lamas. I see that a lot, sure. But from their side, no. No. How else do you recognize it? Are they indifferent? Do they appear indifferent? No. Do they appear as if they've got less love and less compassion for people? No. When circumstances are difficult, and there are many times the circumstances, do they lose their temper? Do they become agitated and worried? Whatever circumstances arise, they deal with it appropriately. You can see it. Things that would have you and I running for the hills. Yeah. The stories are boundless. Stories of Rinpoche being in Tibet and the bus being overturned and he's sitting on the side of the road doing his prayers or making sure everybody's all right and what do we do? You know, shall we do this night? No. No. You don't see any of this. You don't see hostility. So never mix up equanimity with a kind of blandness. It's not. It is the opposite. Bodhisattvas have equanimity. And they have so much love and joy and compassion, it's boundless. Never make the mistake of thinking that equanimity is a kind of passive, neutral state. It's not.
It's neither extremities. Neither is it extreme. The idea is we don't see extreme behavior.
I don't know. I think you can. Yeah, if they've got rationale behind it, bodhisattvas have engaged in quite extreme activities. They can become overjoyed in very difficult circumstances. At last, someone to practice on. Lama Atisha had a servant, a monk, who was so critical of him. And it was so bad that the Tibetans couldn't understand why the guy was still alive, let alone traveling with Rinpoche. And they'd say, why don't you get rid of him? He goes, oh no, he's my best friend. I don't who's going to teach me patience? Nobody's going to teach me, this guy, certainly. And the thing is, he meant it. When you start to walk the bodhisattva path, one of the first things you have to learn to be is generous. If you've nobody to be generous to, how are you going to develop? You're not. One of the things you've got to develop is extreme patience, really. And it's not the patience that goes, I'll just count to 10. Not like that. Genuine patience. Your friends will not teach you patience. People who disturb your mind and behaving badly, they teach you patience. So you and I get an adverse situation and we go, oh God, we want to get out of it as quickly as possible. Apply all these antidotes. A bodhisattva goes, right. Let's deal with this. You start using what you think is poison, what we mislabel, and you see it as the antidote. So in the same way, like a tree can be poisonous, the fruit of a tree, but you can take that poison and make it into an antidote. Yes, of course. So it's using this energy, and a bodhisattva is very clever at using these types of energy, and they can be quite extreme. There's a story of during Buddhist time, one bodhisattva, as he was walking into a village, he made a pledge, and the pledge was that he would lead each and every sentient being in that village to enlightenment fairly soon. He decided, you know, he had the whole mental power bits going on. So anyway, he walks into the village, but to be able to do that, there has to be a connection. Because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can't come into a room and just zap you on the head and go, you are enlightened. You know, they can't do that. It has to come from you too. So unable to do that, he had to make some form of connection. Yes? So he made sure as he walked through this village that he spoke to everybody, made some sort of connection. But there was one old lady. This old lady wouldn't even recognize him, wouldn't look at him, wouldn't reply to him, and he was going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So do you know what he did? He burnt her crops. She took notice of him then. You and I wouldn't do that. Of course not. But bodhisattvas at a certain stage have got clairvoyant powers. They can see what's going to be happening. And for that displeasure and that problem there and then, he was going to create a situation where he was going to lead that individual to enlightenment, but it needed that. You and I would go, oh, that's dreadful. Poor little old lady. You know, how could he do that? When I first heard that, I went, what? I couldn't see the moral in this at all. By the way, I'm not advocating this, okay? I'm just saying. Extreme behavior? Oh, I think so. What we think is extreme. But what we think is extreme is governed by our understanding of the moment. Now, equanimity is so important that you enhance it in every possible situation. And one of the best ways of doing this is using a prayer called the Four Immeasurables. Have you heard of that? Could you hand those out? Any chance you get to be equitable, any chance you get to enhance it, you grab it with both hands. And the Four Immeasurables is a prayer that's said on every occasion in the Dharma, in the Buddhism. It's said before every initiation. It's said before every teaching. Sometimes it's said very briefly, sometimes more elaborate, but it's always done. It's called the Four Immeasurables. Now, when we were talking about equanimity, I said that there is a neutral feeling which is not to do with bodhicitta. Then I said there was a kind of, what was it called? Like a balanced equanimity of mind that's born from not dullness, not agitated, but a kind of equanimity of mind, yes? And then I talked about immeasurable equanimity. And I said one of the ways that it was immeasurable was it was headed and aimed towards all sentient beings in every realm. But that's only a fraction of immeasurable. When the Tibetans use words like immeasurable, they're not joking. They're really not joking. So when you look at this prayer, the first bit, it goes, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distant, right? That is an immeasurable wish, an immeasurable wish. And it goes further. May they abide in equanimity. So you're going from, well, it would be quite a good idea, right? And then it's going a bit further going, actually, it's more than that. I pray that it'll happen. So may they abide in equanimity is an immeasurable prayer.
What does abide mean?
Huh?
Abide.
Stay with, be with, do, yeah. And then that's not enough. A prayer isn't enough. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Now we're getting on to the bodhisattva bit. I'm going to do it. It's what's called immeasurable superior intention. Immeasurable superior intention. And then, please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. An immeasurable request.
I have a question about the I in this prayer.
Which one? Okay.
Well, almost every verse.
Yes.
I've wondered this before. Why it's kind of formulated.
Okay.
The I.
I understand. I understand. So what we're talking about is concepts. I mean, the thing about we need language. We need language to be able to convey anything. And so you have concepts. And the concept of I is very strong. But everything is in context. At the moment, this is okay. Because this is what you're aiming for as bodhicitta. If you were going towards something else, if you were looking at impermanence, then you would spend a bit more time on that. You might still use the I, but you're using it in the sense of just being conventional. You're not using in the sense of permanent, unchanging I. It's not the word I that's the problem. It's the label, the permanent label of I. And so you can say, merely labeled I. So you could read this prayer by saying, may the merely labeled I cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless the merely labeled I to be able to do this. Well, you know, it gets a bit funny, you know. Whenever you use concepts, it's not as if you've got a choice. You use them, languages like that. So you're not hanging on to that. You have to use it because it is you you're talking about. Now, is it the you that's a permanent, unchanging entity? No. It's the you that's impermanent. So don't worry about that too much. But I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming. If this was a lecture or a discussion on impermanence and emptiness, then we'd go into that a bit further. But for the purposes of this and in this context, it's not a problem. Yeah, it's not a problem. Okay. So the next verse. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the cause of happiness. Right? An immeasurable wish. May they have happiness in its causes. An immeasurable prayer. I myself will cause now, this is good, now you're taking. This is the difference here between an arhat and someone on the Mahayana path. They don't take responsibility. It's just not what they do. On the Mahayana path, I myself will cause them to have happiness in their causes. The superior intention kicks in here. But understanding you can't do it alone. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. We all need help. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of the suffering and its causes. Now, when everything's developing, yes, of course you have that wish. Most people have that wish. But most people don't go on to, may they be free of suffering, because it never takes them that far. But if we bring that immeasurable prayer in, then we become the very few people that will say, I myself will cause them to be free of suffering and its causes. Very few people will do that. And even fewer that would say, please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from the happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. Again, our hearts have this wish. Of course they do. May they never be separated from this immeasurable prayer. Where's the difference? I myself will cause them never to be separated from the superior intention. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. The immeasurable request. This is the most wonderful prayer. The whole of the Bodhisattva here, all of it here. Okay, so now we're going to do it. So, it's a wonderful practice, this. There are many different ways of doing it. What we're going to do is we'll say the verses together, right? and then be quiet for a few minutes. And in that few minutes, you can read it again, reflect on it. Try to get this balance in relation to happiness and compassion. Try to get that balance. When that balance comes, just focus on that. Okay? So we're going to read the verse together, and then we're going to take a few minutes after each verse. What are we going to be doing? Reflect on it. Try to get that balance. See where the growth of it. See the superior intention. See where the equanimity comes in. And when you're feeling a bit balanced, yeah, definitely. Then stay with it. Just for a few minutes. Okay? Okay. So, of course.
Is there something about such things as love and compassion? It's not really feelings, but aspirations in this context.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So love is wanting others to be happy. That's the definition. Wanting others to be happy. And compassion, wanting others not to suffer.
So it's more wish.
Well, it is an I think it's more of an aspiration. I think it's more of an aspiration. Like a wish. Like a wish. Yeah.
But not a feeling.
I think it can come out as a feeling. But I think it's more. I think how we experience it is more of a feeling. I think with superior intention, it becomes, when it becomes an immeasurable prayer, I think it becomes more of an aspiration. Then it becomes more of an intention. Then you're definitely going to do it. It does change. How we're experiencing at the moment, I think is, yes, I think you could say, at the moment we're experiencing it as a feeling. I think that's true. I've had some people describe compassion not as an emotion, but an aspiration. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Oh, yeah. But I think we can qualify it by how we're feeling. I think that's okay. As it develops, it becomes much bigger than a feeling, much more expansive than an emotion. It's just not sticky. When things are sticky, I do this if you like, and it's like, it's always, but when you do it properly, it's like that. It feels different. So they say. Okay, goody. So relaxing the body, maybe using the 2-breath method, that's very good. Keeping the back straight. And it's been a long time since 10 o'clock this morning, but there's been some good points and good discussions. Try and bring that to mind now about bodhicitta. What it is, what it's not, how it grows, how it depends on equanimity, not partiality, not labels. Allow that to circulate in your mind. How do we nurture this so we don't forget it? One of the ways of nurturing this is being able to meditate on the 4 immeasurables. It's very powerful. Saying the words, powerful. Contemplating them, powerful. Focusing on a result, powerful. So let's say the first verse. And keeping in mind the immeasurability of all of this, the immeasurable wish, the prayer, the superior intention, the request. This is not small. It's not, well, I'd really like to do that if I've got the time. Immeasurable. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distant. May they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. If you like, read it again, glance at it, close your eyes. Try to get that balance, then focus. And if you like, when you're thinking of the last line, please Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this, you can imagine Buddha Shakyamuni on your crown. And he's just saying, of course, you just have to ask. And the white blessing light, liquid light pouring into your body, filling it. Wonderful way to end that particular verse. All the verses like that. And you can imagine once your body is filled, I can do this. I really can do this. And you can rest in that. Verse 2. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have happiness and its cause. I myself will cause them to have happiness and its cause. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. I can do this. verse 3. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of suffering and its cause. May they be free of suffering and its cause. I myself will cause them to be free of suffering and its cause. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. Fourth verse. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. May they never be separated from these. I myself will cause them never to be separated from these. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. Thank you. How did you find doing that? How did you find doing that? Did it sit well with you, or a bit too artificial, or do you think it's a practice that you could get into at some stage? Not for everybody. Some people have difficulty, but I tell you, one of the reasons I like it is because nobody's talking at me. I like glancing meditations. When we started, we didn't have an awful lot of this leading meditation, talking you through it, But I understand, because everybody's at different stage. Some people are new, some people don't have time to study. So talking someone through a meditation, I understand. But when you're on your own, then doing a glance meditation, I think, is much more powerful, not having somebody talking at you. So if you're going to do what's called a glance meditation, let's say you're doing, you're studying Precious Human Rebirth, for instance, then what you do is you study that and you maybe choose 4 or 5 points that are important to you, and you jot them down or put them on your iPad or whatever. And then you go into meditation and you just open your glance at it, yeah? Then get back into it. If you've done the study beforehand, if you've read up about it and discussed it and all the rest of it, it makes the meditation easier. So all you actually need is the odd points written down somewhere. And your meditation is much easier. Now, it's all done here. It's all here. And if that's in front of you, you don't even have to do the whole thing. You could do one verse at a time. You can even just take that first bit, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distant. Just that one bit, that immeasurable wish. If you've read about equanimity, if you've reflected, that could take you your whole session just to do that. So building up the ability to do glancing meditation, not always relying on, someone talking to you, or I can't do the meditation, I've got the audio. Use your own audio. In the beginning, it's useful having other people, but not necessary. And when you're on your own, you can go, you judge how deep you're going. You judge what you're going to focus on. You're not relying on someone to tell you. At the moment, it's useful, I know. But you don't want to rely on that forever, do you? Or do you? Oh, no, it's much easier. No, Mary, no, this is a no. No, because eventually if you want to do a retreat on your own, and you want to develop, then really you want to be doing this yourself. This makes it so much easier. This is the benefit of prayers. Some prayers are what they're made for. They're not made just to worship. Buddhism's not really into worship, People think they are. It's not to do with that. The prayers are like an intensive study. You don't even have to make notes. Open a particular prayer, look at it. If that's fitting with what you're studying, that'll be all the help you'll need, because all the main points are there. Or you can do a little bit of study, make your own headings, then go into meditation just glancing at that. Very nice. The other thing I want you to think about is this idea of immeasurable everything. So from now on, whenever you're doing something that's vaguely positive, make it immeasurable. How do you make it immeasurable, do you think? Let's say you're going to help out somewhere and you want it to be more than a mundane act. You want it to be immeasurable. What would you do?
Dedicating it.
Okay. First of all, motivating. Start with the motivation. Do it and then dedicate. Excellent. Yeah. We're not used to it though, are we? We kind of drift into doing something good. Or we have a concept, this would be a good thing. We actually setting your motivation is very powerful. To be honest, motivation and karma are very similar. Motivation and karma are very similar. It's intention. So if you're going to do something positive, intend to do it. Set your mind to it. Motivate. And how are you going to motivate? Include all sentient beings, really. And at first, of course, it's going to be artificial. We know that. It's going to be a bit partial, a bit weak, but starts from somewhere. Then it won't happen. It'll become firmer. Your partiality will drop. Your spontaneity will grow. Whatever you're going to do, if it's going to be, don't do it if it's negative, but if it's positive, then see if you can make it immeasurable. Start now. How else can you make something you're going to do immeasurable?
Thinking that I'm going to help this person, but perhaps the effects of this will then spread.
Yes.
To those people who are connected to them, who are connected to them, who are connected
Yes.
to them, and then suddenly it's...
Yes, and think it positively. Not maybe, it will. It will. So you see that, although I'm doing it for you, may it affect positively everyone that you contact, everyone you think about, anyone you've ever known.
Knowing that it will come back.
Of course.
Maybe not from that person, but another one.
It becomes immeasurable.
Mm.
What else can you do to make it immeasurable?
Well, we made these things of offerings in Gaia, and that we included ourselves
Yes.
and everybody else.
Yes.
In all, both in future,
Sure.
in present, and in past.
Right. That's
And
true.
we made the offerings.
So not just offerings. Every practice you do it for the benefit of all living beings. It sounds too much, but it's not. You get into the habit quite quickly. And it may be for a while you're just blah, blah in the words. That doesn't matter. Start with the aspiration. Then it'll grow a bit more. So not only are you thinking that, you start to visualize. So when you're making offerings, whether it's the water bowls or whatever you do, if you're sensible, it's not just you doing the offerings. So you think, to my right-hand side is the father of this lifetime, alive or dead. And all your male relatives, going back as far as you, are all at your right-hand side. At your left-hand side, the mother of this lifetime, and all female relatives here. In front of you, people that you kind of got difficulty with. They're there. Behind you, all your friends. Surrounding them in ever-increasing circles, all other sentient beings of the six realms. Now, I don't know about you, but I get lost with, visualization. Imagine they're there. Then whatever you do, whether it's prostrations, whether it's offerings, whatever it is, you're all doing it together. You're leading them like an orchestra, You're almost bringing a future result into the present. Because when you become a bodhisattva, this is what you'll do. You'll lead other people to enlightenment. That's your only job. No holidays, nothing like that. That's your job. Awake or asleep, that's what you're doing. And by the way, one of the benefits of bodhicitta is that you create so much merit whether you're asleep or awake. And you don't have to have realizations for the merit. It's interesting. Most to create merit, you usually need a wee bit of insight and understanding. But Shantideva, who is the last word on bodhicitta, he wrote everything there's to do about bodhicitta. Well, he didn't write it, but he's the one that inspired all of that. The moment you appreciate its value, whether it's obscured by negativities, whether you have no understanding, the moment you appreciate the value, you start to accrue merit, vast amounts of merit, and you start to purify. Even if your understanding is limited, even if you've got lots of obscurations, simply, it's so powerful, simply by seeing its value immediately. So when we talk about immeasurable, sky's the limit. I remember Lama Zopa Rinpoche saying, you're going for a walk. Why are you walking on your own? Not to me personally, we're just talking generally. Don't go for a walk on your own. Take all sentient beings with you. Really? Really, take them with you. Animals, hungry goat, all of them. All sentient beings. Surround yourself. And when you're going for a walk, you're not walking just on a path for nothing like that. You're walking the path of the Bodhisattva towards enlightenment, and you're taking all these people with you. If somebody's looking at you, they're not going to notice, are they? No, of course not. Otherwise you get locked up, eh? But this is the mental attitude. This is the mental attitude. Start now. This will be your job. If you walk this path, this is your job. Start now. Bring future results into the present. This is being wise. So whatever you're doing, offerings, prostration, don't do it on your own. Take a moment to imagine yourself surrounded by every sentient being. And you're doing it not for yourself. You're doing it on behalf of all of them. You see how that feels. In the beginning, it will be, not difficult, but see after a while, it kind of feels real. And that will impact on how you deal with other people. It just impacts on it. See, the Buddha was very clever. I mean, he said it very clearly. Everything starts with the thought. Everything. He says, first there is the thought. Always. The thought manifests as the word. The word manifests as the deed. The deed becomes the action hardens into character. So watch the thought in its ways with care. Make sure it comes from a love of all sentient beings. So starting with the thought, you can do so much. But I think you've probably done enough with it.
You know who re-articulated those words? Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
You know, incredible.
There's always a fault somewhere, bless.
she just shows that a woman, whatever you think about her, we have a closer contact to Margaret Thatcher. She articulated these words. She designated change. She wanted to make change. She made it happen because of that sequence of events.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I have difficulty, but okay.
Her motivations might have been different.
I have no idea. Can't see into their mind.
She articulated that process.
Yes. I think I'll rely on the Buddha though. I think that's.
Sure.
But people do. I mean, it's a truism. These things are true. And you can use it in many different ways. You can use it to overrun a country. Or you can use it in the Dharma. In the Dharma, perfect. But you're right.
People shows that this is coming from somewhere. This is coming from a truism.
It's reality. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That we recognize. This is why it can manifest in anybody. We can come up with something like that and think this is ours. It's not.
No. How you use it. A knife can cure, it can also kill. So, how you use it's really important, eh? Anyway. There's lots of sayings like that. Normally I get it wrong anyway. So now what we're going to do, because this is so just thinking about this, appreciating anything, value in relation to that. Now we need to dedicate it. We need to dedicate it now. So let's look at the dedication prayers. The first two verses. Have you got the page number? 235? Sounds about right, yeah. 235? And when you dedicate, it's good to just quickly reflect on the motivation you had, because you've now generated some energy. So now when you dedicate it, you have something to dedicate with. You have that power now. So you take all this positivity now, reflect on the motivation you had, and now just direct it like an arrow, direct it towards achieving that goal. While you're doing the dedication, it can become an immeasurable dedication. So imagine on your right-hand side, the father of this lifetime, your male relatives, your left-hand side, your mother of this lifetime, female relatives. In front of you, people that kind of disturb your mind. Behind you, all your friends. And spiraling outwards, all sentient beings. And you're leading them in this dedication. That's what you're doing. You're leading them in this dedication. Gewadi nyu Lama Sangye Gyurgyune Drowa Chinkyang Malupa Keki Sala Guparsho Jancho Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ke Pa Nam Ke Gyurche Ke Pa Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Goni Gong Du Pelwar Shu. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Thank you so much for your patience and for spending Saturday. How wonderful. So I don't know if you're eating now or you're going home, but I wish you the best. Have a lovely evening and hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.